you ever sit there and feel you wish we were in a plural relationship? The question in my head is like, are we going to try to live plural marriage again?
Polygamy doesn't work if you're going to actually fall in love.
And you fell in love?
I fell in love hard.
We've all seen their engagement photos. I wonder how close they got before they were married.
Did you have any other sexual experiences before Meri?
Okay, listen, Suki.
Right?
I want to shut you down now.
Hi, friends. It's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. On the next half of the season of season 19, Christine Brown, during the tell-all, is going to bring up Kody and Robyn's premarital relationship. And I don't think anyone should be surprised because during the season, Kody made this admission that prior to Meri, or prior to getting married, he had a relationship where he lost his purity, let's just say, and that he was deeply regretful of this. And it caused him a lot of pain because he was a good Mormon boy, and that's like the worst thing that you can do. And he admitted that he never told Janelle or Christine about it. So that actually created a huge issue. His daughter, McKelty, actually found it super offensive when she watched the show. And Christine and Janelle are going to be able to respond to that on the show. And during the tell-all, Christine brings up a very valid point, and it has to do with Kody and Robyn's relationship prior to getting married. And let's just qualify it as air quotes married, because they aren't, at the time when they had their ceremony, they were not married. Kody was still legally married to Meri Brown, and he had two other quote unquote wives that were his. In the doctrine and covenants, they would be called his plural wives or his concubines, and they had no legal rights to Kody. And their goal for Kody in this faith was to just be their breeders. They make children to help build his kingdom. And throughout the season, Kody made a lot of really wild off the cuff comments about, how it's very different to be in love with someone than it is to be with someone that you build your kingdom with, right? And he goes on and on and on about how he fell in love with Robyn, and it was so different with her than it was with everyone else. And I just want to share something with you from their book, because this is a pattern for Kody that he does when he gets in relationships. He seems to devalue the women. And he really admitted to basically being kind of a player, or I don't even know what you would call him these years. A guy that gets around, a guy that cheats. I don't know what you call these guys these days. But in Becoming Sister Wives, I just want you to hear what he had to say about love. This was written in 2012. I'm a hopeless romantic and too easily infatuated. When I was growing up, I suffered all sorts of little heartbreaks. I had a careless dating style. I would dive into a relationship before considering my true feelings. Often I'd find myself holding a girl's hand, then I'd look over at her and think, why am I holding her hand? I don't really like her. During my 2 years in ministry in Texas, I promised myself that I would never again kiss a woman until I knew for sure that I was in love. When I returned home from my mission and began seriously considering converting from the LDS Church to Mormon fundamentalism, my mother told me I should take time away from girls, or at least from dating them. She knew that I needed to become less careless and discover what it was I truly wanted from a relationship and who I truly loved. My mother sat me down and said, the next time you find yourself infatuated with someone, why don't you try and be friends? Don't rush into a romantic relationship right off the bat. Be friends and let something develop. That decided it. I told myself I was done with dating carelessly. I was done chasing girls. I was done chasing girls, he said. I urged myself to be patient and to learn how to be friends with the next girl I became interested in. Meri was my experiment with friends. Experiment. Meri was so cute and sweet when I met her that I had a hard time suppressing my hopeless romantic nature. She had a remarkable purity about her. I had a sneaking suspicion that we were soulmates But because of the promise I had made to myself, I rejected this notion. I was determined to be Meri's friend until I knew better and could confirm my suspicion that our destinies were intertwined. I was glad that Meri and I kept finding ourselves and spending more time together. So he admits that he gets infatuated, right? And he would kiss girls and then he would regret it. He would hold hands, he would regret it. He would fall in love with women and then later regret it. And that would be whoever he was with at the time would be his obsession in that moment. I mean, he calls Meri his soulmate and says that he was different with her because he wanted to be more careful and see if he loved her. Kody's relationship with Meri is one where he picked her. I mean, he says that she was sweet and innocent and a wonderful listener. She validated my existence. We became inseparable. She validated my existence. Kody can go back in time and look back and say that he never loved Meri, but he's really just evaluating the fact that he has to accept where he is today and the choices that he made. That's my opinion. And I think what he's doing is he's trying to make it seem like she lied to him and that's why everything changed. And she wasn't the sweet and innocent person. But I disagree. I think she was probably more than patient and she probably was being forced to deal with insurmountable stress and pain because Kody was in many ways constantly chasing women. I mean, in the first year of their marriage, he was after girls. They didn't ever really have a chance to settle into their relationship before she was in a constant state of fight or flight. And the way that he speaks about Meri isn't about, that he's not in love with her or that it's acceptable to build a kingdom. It was, she was my soulmate. She listened to me. We were great friends. We did all these things together. We laughed. We had so much fun. I loved her. She validated me. That's someone that loves their wife, right? Kody was so in love with this woman that he converted to her faith. He became friends with her family. He developed a relationship with Meri's father. He went out of his way to basically insert himself fully into Meri's life. And he picked her and they got married. Okay. And with Robyn, the reason why he married her is vastly different. And she almost made it like he needed to pick her because everyone else wanted her. Kody says that he became transfixed with Robyn's spirit. He said, I couldn't deny the spark I felt, not the kind of spark you feel in your loins, but something deep and transcendent. I guess you could call it love at first sight. When we were talking after the dance, I went out of my way to avoid flirting with Robyn and focused most of my energy on talking to her sister. By the time I had a deep sense that there was a spiritual connection between us and I didn't want to be overbearing or inappropriate. Eventually, I ended my conversation with Robyn and her sister, and they left the dance. And he and Meri go home. They start talking about Robyn, whether or not they want to be with her. And he says that true to Kody's form and to his pattern of being infatuated and falling in love too easily, he admits that on the first night he met her, believed that he was going to marry her. They had an undeniable connection, and that he and Meri were like over the hill, over the moon for her. And he said the next day when he got to church, he was crestfallen because Robyn was not there. He said, I was angry at myself. If I'd known that Robyn wasn't going to be at church the next day, I would have never been a gentleman and ended our conversation the previous evening. I would have insisted we all go out for pie and stay up late as possible. During church, Meri texted me to ask if I'd seen Robyn. I told her I hadn't. She was as disappointed as I was. Robyn and Kody's relationship, when they write about it and how they were interested, Robyn seemed a little bit more standoffish. She was very interested in I don't know if I love this guy. And she admitted that she only wanted to be with a guy that could take care of her. Kody admits that he was a financial mess and he had been turned down for other women, and that initially the church leaders were not cool or good with him getting married again because he could barely support his own family. But they eventually end up getting on a first date after he gets permission from Robyn's dad or her stepdad, which is weird because Robyn at this time is in her 30s. And he admits that he told Robyn, I loved you on the first date. The first date they ever had, he says, I love you. That's so crazy because it's completely love bombing. And she says that she doesn't tell him that she loves him back. And then he's after their first date and after a couple weeks of dating, he decides he's going to marry her. he said, I had been planning to ask Robyn to marry me on her birthday, but I jumped the gun. A few days before her birthday, she told me that an older and esteemed man in our faith had called to inquire about courting her. This was a shock to my system, and I was devastated. I didn't have the money to marry and support Robyn, but I knew that I would have to find a way. Even though Robyn told the man she knew where she belonged, I was still shaken. So Robyn like dangled a guy in front of her and him to make it feel like Kody needed to like move on her, like it's a competition. And so he says the next day, Robyn and I drove back out to Thanksgiving Point, and as we sat there talking, I was overcome with what I believed was God's spirit. And before I knew what I was doing, I took her hand and asked her to marry me. And then he claims that Christine told him that he should kiss Robyn, which isn't true. And he says, I took Robyn's face in my hands and I kissed her. Robyn leaped out of the car and began to dance around. She was so happy and joyful. I got out of the car. She jumped into my arms. This happened on September 26th. We wouldn't get married for 6 months. Our lives were in upheaval. I couldn't support Robyn yet. I couldn't even move her to our town, but I knew God would help me to do what he could to bring her into my life. So he doesn't talk about like Robyn validating him. I mean, he does say that they talked about stretch marks on their first date, but it sounds more like when he saw Robyn, it was like he was enamored with her beauty. He was enamored with like her aesthetic. He wanted this thing that was 10 years younger than him that would validate him as a polygamist because he's getting a younger wife. And now he believes other men want this wife, right? And he's grabbing her and kissing her, which he didn't do with Christine or Janelle before they got married, which is very weird to think about it. So their entire courtship was just so out the norm. But when he's talking about his relationship with Meri, it was like, Meri's my soulmate. I really loved her. She validated me. And with Robyn, it was like he fell in lust. But Kody's own words say that he has a propensity to fall in love easily and to sort of just like once he's done with a woman, move on and on to the next. And in the book, he says that he loved all of his wives. And I don't think he actually loved Christine. I don't think he actually loved Janelle. I think those were his utilitarian wives that he needed to get to the kingdom. But he did love Meri and he did love Robyn. And so for Kody to then admit this season that prior to Meri, he was having intimacy. He said he had sex with a partner and that it devastated him, right? And when Kody and Robyn were courting, I have a hard time believing that they weren't doing it because he had to drive to St. George, right? Which was like 4 or 5 hours away from where he lived. He would stay over the night, sometimes spending the weekend with her, not at her house, apparently. According to McKelty, he would stay in a hotel or stay at Robyn's parents' house. But, it doesn't take spending the night with someone like sleeping to actually engage in sex. And if Kody was willing to have crossed boundaries before and willingly crossed the boundary of kissing her before marriage, there's no reason to believe that he wouldn't cross a boundary with her here, especially given the fact that he was in lust. He couldn't get enough of Robyn. He couldn't get enough of her because she was his diesel gene model. That he lied to everyone else except for apparently Meri and Robyn that he had had sex before marriage. But he never told Janelle or Christine about this. There's no reason for me to believe that he didn't have sex with Robyn before because once they got married, they kept having to remind everyone how chaste they were and how pure they were and how they didn't touch and how they were so perfect and they followed all the rules. But they actually didn't follow the rules, right? Because Kody was kissing her before marriage, which is actually in their church not allowed. Kody also pursued her outside of wives knowing, which is supposed to be not allowed. Kody did whatever he wanted with Robyn the entire time. And all I think that Kody wanted was someone new, someone younger, someone that could again validate him. He wants and he's seeking that constant need for someone to be his trophy. And Robyn wanted to be a trophy wife. That's what she wanted. She wanted a man that would take care of her and her kids, that he had money. Robyn's first comments when meeting him was that he drove like a Lexus. That intrigued her. She wanted to become famous. She wanted to, write a bestseller and meet Oprah. So really what I'm liking here is that there's finally going to be a confrontation between Kody about his sex life. And I think it would be really asinine to believe that Kody didn't have sex with Robyn before marriage. I think it would also be asinine to believe that Kody didn't have sexual partners outside of the wives that he had. I have no doubt that Kody was probably on the hunt. When he was traveling, he might have hooked up with women that were not his wives. I don't see Kody as someone, I mean, he has gone as far as when the last season saying that, he had thoughts of leaving Robyn and going off with another lover, which tells me he's likely cheated on Robyn since they've been monogamists. And if you know your husband can never be faithful and wants to be with someone else, then of course you're going to ask him to take more wives if you're Robyn, because you also need more money. But I find it ironic that on the show, Kody was willing to share very openly that he had this tryst with this other woman. But then when confronted by Suki, he flips out and he's like, don't talk to me about my sex life. I'm going to stop you right there. What I hope Suki does ask him is, I want to talk to you about your sex life with Robyn, because I highly doubt their honeymoon was the very first time. So, what are your thoughts about Christine and this confrontation about the sex lives? And what are your thoughts about Kody and how he views women and how he easily falls in love with people? On to the next. Do you really think he fell in love with Robyn, or did he fall in love with the sex and the validation she gave him? Did she play the role better than the rest, and she wasn't tired of him after having to deal with him for 20 years and being abused? What are your thoughts? Tell me in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, guys.